The following audio recording has been designed for learning purposes only. Do not share, distribute, or provide any type of copies, or this audio lesson will not be made available to you. Good luck with today's lesson.
You should be able to see all of your points. But you're going to be seeing your points over the weeks. They're going to grow and grow and grow, and then you're going to get to the A or close to it, but you're still going to have some assignments. And you're going to like, you know what? Why am I doing this? I got the A, what am I doing? So a lot of times towards the end of the semester, people figure they see that they have the points that they need to get the grade that they want. And then if they don't turn the other assignments in, I don't say anything if you don't say anything, okay? So just remember that as the points are growing, okay? Yes.
So for reaction paper number 2, you asked us to answer all the 3 questions.
Yes.
Page 39.
Mhm.
You want us to answer them separately for each one of them, 1 to 2 paragraphs, or all of them combined together with 1 to 2 paragraphs?
It's up to you. How do you feel? Do you feel like you want to answer them all? It's up to you how you want to answer.
Okay.
Mhm.
As long as 1 to 2 paragraphs.
Right.
Okay.
As long as you answer all of the questions. It doesn't matter the order or whatever, you know, because sometimes people add things. Like I said, you have the option of doing it exactly as it is in the book. You have the option of, if you know a lot about the topic, doing some research and adding stuff into it. You know, it's up to you how you like to do it. Okay. So, let's see. So if you go here, chapter 4, chapter 8. Oh, where's that? Chapter 4. Chapter. Oh, man. Okay, let's see. You know what? Okay. Okay, I'll just give you a break before I load that. Okay, and I'll load it on there. It's me. Okay, so apparently I haven't. Did I do? Oh, let me go. Oh, you know what? Wrong one. Here we go. Here we are. Okay, here you are. So you see, everything is there. They're all open. The only thing you don't see are the exams because I haven't loaded those in yet. But I'll load exam 1 in this weekend. And then it won't allow you to enter it until the actual date the exam is supposed to be given. So next Friday at midnight, it will open. You'll be able to see it. It will open, and then you can just work away. Again, it's 25 questions, multiple choice, true, false. You will know when I get to the end of a chapter. It's going to be chapters 1, 2, 3. You'll know when I get to the end of the chapters because the questions will turn into multiple choice. The last few questions are always multiple choice, and it goes to the next chapter. Okay, so that's how it'll be set up. I had something else I wanted you to do. Oh, also, that day that you have to do the lecture and you're listening to my voice, there's an assignment that's been built in too. What you're going to do, and there's hold on, I'll go down there. Right here, March 15th, there's a discussion assignment. It says discussion assignment. You'll click on it, and it's going to tell you, don't forget the discussion assignment that will take place March 15th through 17th. That's that Friday and the weekend that you're off. It says go to the discussion tab on the left-hand side of your Canvas page, click on it, and join in, and I'll see you there. So what you'll do is you go to the left-hand corner. You're going to see discussion where I have the cursor. You're going to click on it, and there it is, right down here, okay? You're just going to click on it. This healthcare in the United States is not going to be available until March 15th at 12 a.m. When it opens, it's going to ask you, I can open it now so you can see it. Okay. And then it says this assignment must be completed by the 17th at 11:59 p.m. Answer the following questions and respond to at least one other person in the class. Now, if you get a good conversation going with people, you can just keep talking. Or if you see other people who are saying things that you like, you can just like when you're texting, okay? So it says the U.S. spends more on healthcare than any other country, yet it ranks near the bottom in health among its peer nations. So that would be Great Britain, maybe even Sweden, Netherlands. They have better health care outcomes than we do. Okay, what factors account for this? So I just want you to think about it, you know, and then respond. And again, you're going to give your answer, and then someone else in the class will come up and you'll give an answer to them or respond to what they're saying. Okay, and then I'll join in over that weekend. I'll join in with my thoughts. And then you can respond to me or not. It's up to you. But I just brought this in as an extra added thing since we're not going to have a lecture on that day. And again, I like to come up with I'm always coming up with different lessons, and this is one of them. And I usually use this when I'm teaching online only, because since I don't see students, we have to talk to one another in some way. So every week there's a question. You're only going to get one for this semester, because you won't be here on that day, the 15th. Okay, so yes.
Do we have to do it like that day or that weekend?
That weekend, over that weekend. It's going to open at midnight on the 15th. It's going to close at 11:59 on the 17th. That's Sunday. So you have 3 days to respond to people. And again, March 15th is when it'll open, because that's the class day, and it's going to close on the 17th, that Sunday, at 11:59 p.m. So you have over the weekend to respond to at least one person. Okay, it's up to you. Again, people get on there, they get good conversations going, and you know, they just keep going. So it's up to you how, you know, however that works for you. Okay, but I can see on here who's responding, who not. It'll tell me when you responded, the time that you did, the date that you did. It tells me all of that. So you just click reply button and then you go for it. Okay, so that's the assignment. Again, in that module for that week, it'll remind you that you need to do that assignment. And plus, there'll probably be something on the right-hand side that tells you that there's a discussion coming up, you know, for that weekend. Okay, and then just go on and do it. So you see that I have everything loaded here, loaded, all the way to the end. Just the exams aren't in there yet. Okay, now again, the exams, I told you multiple choice, true, false. Canvas is going to be rigged so that you have 3 times to take the exam. Canvas keeps the highest score, records the highest score, sends it straight to gradebook. So all I do is go into gradebook and I see that you've done it. You've done the exam. When you take it the first time, you're going to click submit. There's going to be a clock there, but don't pay attention because I haven't turned the clock on. You have no time limit in that. The only time limits you have are the day that it opens and the day that it closes. Okay? Take the exam, you click submit. It's going to pop up and tell you what answers were not right, what the correct answer is. All you need to do is go back in, put the correct answer in, and submit it again, and you're done. Okay? So you shouldn't have to leave and come back to it because it's only 25 questions. You know, you should be able to take it and then see, you know, maybe you won't get any wrong. And then you just submit it, leave it alone, you're fine. Okay? But that's what is going to be for that. And I don't have anything else I want to say. I kept wondering why I couldn't access the lecture notes properly, and it's because the publisher has the old book version in there too. So I finally got the right version. I was able to get the right notes. So I'm good there. Good to go on that. They should take that out of there. It's confusing. Okay. So, okay, let me see. Syllabus. All right. So I got that done. All right. So now we're going to go to the quiz, Yield Kid quiz. So if you want to get in your, if you would like to get in your groups, here we go. All right, so Chapter 8, Deviance and Social Control. All right, these are your learning objectives. Did you have a question?
Yes. I had a question about the presentation. You said you'll make like a date for it after the exam?
It is the October. It's going to be March 22nd. That's when the second presentation is going to be.
Which we will put the first one on it.
The first one is done.
Okay, so we'll have to do another one, but present it on the.
Right, you're going to present it right up here, okay? So you're only going to have 3 because we had the snow and everything. I just start cutting things down. So you're going to have 3 instead of more.
So the first one we just turn it, then we don't present it.
Haven't we done the first presentation? Oh, well, let us do that right now. You know, I'm thinking of, wait a minute, hold on, I got my, hold on. I got a lot of stuff going on, so I would have everything here. I would have everything in this folder. Because people would have turned in the presentation and they did not, so that means we did not do it. So, we're going to do 2 things today. You're going to present, and then we're going to, and then I'm going to lecture, and then we'll go. Okay? Thanks for reminding me, because I would have been looking through my folder this weekend, like, where are those presentations? Did I lose them? Okay? Yes.
Could we just turn this one in and present the next one?
Thanks, Miriam.
Pretty please. Pretty please. Pretty please. Pretty
I
please.
just spoiled everybody. Okay, we can do that. Okay, we can do that. We'll do it. Fine. Okay.
Do we submit it on Canvas?
Huh?
Do we submit it on Canvas?
I have to, I would have to make a space for it. Hold on for just a second. Let me go back to the modules. Okay. I have group presentation 1. I just need to be able to submit it. Let's see here. Submission, online, text entry, file uploads. Okay. If you have a Mac computer, it's hard for me to open those. Okay. So just cut, paste it in the box. Okay. That works fine. I don't know why that. Okay, so now you can submit it. Let's see. February, January. Okay, yeah, you can submit it now. Or when you get a moment. Okay, so we'll just do the lecture. You know, it's a lot going on, and my other class did do their presentation Monday. And there weren't a lot of people here. That's why we didn't do it on the 1st. Okay, it's all coming back to me now. Okay, that's why we didn't do it on the 1st. So yes, you can submit it to Canvas. I've already rigged it so that it will accept it. And then the next one, we'll just present the last 2. You'll just get up there. And it's not hard. You know, the other class got up there. They're just up there a few minutes. They summarized. And then everybody clapped. I asked a couple of questions. And then it was over. Okay, so it's not real difficult. Yes?
You would also submit the article with it?
You can hand me the article separately, unless you want to scan it and submit it with the with your paper. It's up to you. Okay, so let's go to this. And, let me see, something about the movie. Put it in here. Alrighty, here we go. Deviance and social control. Okay. These are your learning objectives. Alrighty, so what is deviance? Okay. Why is it relative? And why we need norms? And also to summarize the types of sanctions. Okay. So deviance is a violation of the norm, of norms, whatever those norms are. Okay. If the norm is that you are to, when you leave your home each day, you're supposed to be fully clothed, and you walk out and you're like, oh, not today. You're just gonna go out with no clothes on. You violated a norm, okay? So people would, and if you consistently did that, people would consider that deviant behavior. Okay. But deviance is relative, which means that it could be what is deviant in our culture might not be deviant in someone else's culture, okay? So if you were going out with young children, having sex with young children, in this culture, that's deviant behavior. But in other cultures, children get married 9, 8, 9, and having sex with their spouses at that age. So in that particular culture, that is not deviant behavior. So again, it's relative to whatever the culture is saying. Okay? But norms really make our social life possible. You know, you have to have some limits, although some people don't like limits, you know. But you have to have some limits of things that you say, well, this is what you cannot do, because if you do it, and you do it consistently, it's going to upset the apple cart of our society, okay? So in order to enforce the norms, we have sanctions, okay? And they can be and I don't know if they still do this or not in a lot of towns, but when I was growing up, they would have, if you walked across the street against, say you're on Gratiot Avenue, you know how fast the cars go. Well, people cross Gratiot all the time before they get to the light. They walk across Gratiot when there are no cars coming. Long ago, if the police caught you, you would get a ticket. They would stop and give you a ticket for jaywalking, call it jaywalking. I don't know if they still do that nowadays. Probably when the towns get hard up for money, and they're trying to get the revenue up for tickets, giving out tickets, then they might go back to that. But I know they used to do that when I was growing up, elementary school up to middle school. After that, you can see police doing that anymore in the city of Detroit. I don't know about the suburbs. But anyway, it could be something as simple as that, jaywalking, or as serious as someone murdering someone and you're having a prison sentence or the death sentence, okay? So those are some sanctions. In Kenya, the Poko people place high emphasis on sexual pleasure. Again, and they expect that both the husband and the wife will reach orgasm. If the husband does not satisfy his wife, he is in trouble and will be punished by his wife and her friends. But what if you don't like your husband and you're just saying that? He might be doing what he should be doing, you know. Anyway. This is a Poko woman in traditional dress. But that's an odd thing. Okay. Okay. Do you think he should be in trouble because he didn't satisfy his wife sexually? No. That's just, well, every culture has its own norms, again. All right, so there's some different explanations of deviance, okay? There are social, biological, psychological, and sociological explanations of deviance. The biosocial, it assumes that there's a genetic predisposition, okay? Meaning that you come into the world with these attitudes and ways of being, okay? And they can't be changed because you're genetically predisposed to it. I think I was telling you last time about, oh yeah, I did, because you were here. I remember you were sitting there, okay. About this movie called The Bad Seed. It's about a young woman who is amoral, and whatever she wants, whenever she wants something, she'll kill to get it, okay? But during the course of the movie, it's found out that her mother was an orphan. Well, not really an orphan. The mother was, the father had died, and the mother was sent to jail. Or, no, she wasn't, I'm sorry, sent to jail. She just escaped and left the daughter behind. And so another couple took the daughter in and raised her as their own. But then when it came out that the grandmother was the same sort of person that the granddaughter was, meaning amoral. So the movie was trying to say, the whole premise of the movie is bad behavior genetic or is it learned? She did learn how to be bad in her family, because the family that raised her, because they were the by-the-book people. Father was in the military, the mother was stay at home, and they did everything right. But this girl was just wicked, okay? So they're trying to say that it was more genetic than environmental. So, or a popular term is nature versus nurture. Is it nature, genetic, or is it nurture, environment? Okay. Psychological, it examines personality disorders that might cause deviance. You know, some people are, will say or do anything, again, to get what they want, or they just have a predisposition, there's this big debate in the movies nowadays. There's a movie that's coming out on Ted Bundy, who was a serial killer back in the 80s, 70s, 80s. He killed about 30 some odd women, maybe more, but they were able to count 30. And he was very handsome, and that was part of how he was able to get the women's confidence. You know, he's very handsome and whatever. So the new movie is coming out, and the lead character in the movie is Zac Efron, okay? And so, he's very handsome and whatever. So people are in an uproar about him being the lead. Why are you glamorizing Ted Bundy? He was this, he was that. Well, he was handsome, which is why he was able to attract women. So I don't see the whole thing, but he just had this personality disorder that predisposed him to doing what he did. Okay. So, yes.
Do you think it was like nature and nurture for him? Because like they said his family was like normal and everything, and they raised him right or whatever.
I don't think it's biological at all. I think it's something that's learned. There may be some things that they're not saying about his family. Sometimes when people, whether it's a man or a woman, if they have anger or resentment against the opposite sex, then they can move to that level of doing that, where they don't feel it's wrong, and I'm going to punish this person. Maybe someone has hurt them in their family, a close family member has hurt them in some kind of way emotionally, and they just have this anger against, or in his case, women, just have anger against women to the level, well, I'm going to kill them, get rid of them. So I don't think it's biological. I don't think so. So sociological looks for social influence that recruit people to break norms. Okay, there are a lot of things that go on in society that people will look to and see other people doing it, and so they decide they're going to do it. Okay, so say you're in school, you're in high school, and you are in a group, and they all get together and smoke pot or smoke weed. Okay, and so before the laws came into being, it was illegal to do that. Okay, but you see all the cool people doing it, so I'm going to do it too. So again, you're breaking a norm. Okay. So society can lead you to deviant behavior. Okay. All right. So these are the different theories. Symbolic interactionist perspective. Okay. This is, you're applying this perspective to deviance by explaining the differential associations, control, and labeling. Okay. So differential association theory, this happens within the family and families and your friends, neighborhood, and whatever subcultures that you happen to be into. Okay. Where people will say things about you, and people end up being that way. Some people, not everybody. Okay. So I told you I have 2 grands, and the one that is 1-year-old, he seems like he has a temper. When he can't get his way, he'll fall on the floor. Now he's starting to hit you when he wants to have his way about something, or if he gets angry. And then one day, I've forgotten what I didn't give him something. And he just took the table had lots of stuff on it. He just took and just like that. And I'm like, what's going on with him? So people would start, my granddaughter keeps saying his elevator doesn't go all the way up to the top floor. But if you continue to say stuff like that, and she's just joking, but if you continue to say when he does bad things, saying bad things about him, he'll just end up being that way. Okay? So you can use that for the association theory and also labeling theory. When you label somebody something, in a lot of cases, people end up being that way. Acting out in that way. Okay. So I'm not going to talk. Those are the 2 that you'll see on the exam. Okay. Labeling theory and differential association theory, but not control theory. I'm not going to go into that one. Okay. All right. So, do you understand how definitions of deviance that mafia members use underline their behavior? Okay. This is John Gotti, who's passed away, and he was the head of the New York Gambino Mafia. He was convicted of murder. Finally, they were for a long time they weren't able to make any kind of case against him for a long time. But the government, they keep digging until they get something. He ended up dying in prison. Okay, so some of the things that we would think would be deviant, they kind of glorify within that culture, and it'll be normal things like, and you probably heard them in the different gangster movies. If I have to kill somebody, it's not personal, it's only business. I had to do what I had to do to keep my business going. Okay, so I had to get rid of you, or things like that. Okay. But, or they, my favorite movie in the world is The Godfather. All 3 parts, I like all of them. And the main character, Michael Corleone, he always justifies his behavior. We're going to go legit, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, but I have to do all these other deviant things to get to that point. Okay? So things that we would think are deviant, in that particular culture, they don't see it as that. They just see it as a way to do business. Okay. All right. So social control. of deviance takes many forms, okay? The most prominent are the actions of the police. You know, the police, they have to go around and they have to make sure that people are following the norms. If not, the sanctions are, I'm gonna stop you. I'm gonna ask you for ID. I don't know if anybody's ever been stopped by the police. They're gonna ask you for your ID, number one. You may not be wondering why they're stopping you, because that's happened to me. I was just going to the mall, riding up John R. to go to Oakland Mall one day, and the police stopped me, and I was like shocked, because I wasn't doing anything. And so he gets to me, comes up to me, he goes like, "Where are you going?" And I'm like, "I'm going to the mall." And he goes like, "Okay, let me see your ID." Handed him my ID. I didn't have to do that legally. Really didn't have to do that, because he had no reason to stop me. Okay, but I didn't want to belabor the point, because that's when all the trouble starts. Usually I would recommend that you just do what they ask you to do, and things will go well. When you start resisting, that's when things go south, okay, nowadays. Because the police are, you know, there are a lot of good policemen, but there's some that are not so good, to be honest. And so you just do what they ask you to do. So anyway, I took my ID, looked at it, and he walked away, ran my license. He goes like, "You have the cleanest record of anybody I've ever seen." And then he gave me my ID back, and I'm like, "Have a good day." That was a waste of some minutes. I could have been at the mall shopping, but those things happen. And I just know for a lot of people, and I can say, at first I wouldn't say that that black women would have issues with the police, but more and more black women are having issues with the police. They aren't really doing anything, and the police hassle them, and then things get violent. If you get an attitude, they get violent. So I would say, whether you're black or white, whatever color you are, when you have encounters with the police, just do what they say, and things will go a lot better. If you try to resist in any kind of way, there's going to be trouble. Okay. All right. How would social control theory apply to this situation? Anybody? If you were, how would it apply to you in this situation? You're at a party. Doesn't look like they're really doing too much, but they're having a good time. Anybody think that they're doing anything that needs to be controlled? I don't see anything. You don't see anything? I don't see anything either. But people could make a case, yes.
Maybe the two girls in that fall.
Yeah. I was just gonna say that. You know, maybe some strict person would come along and say, "You shouldn't be doing that.
But
You shouldn't be on."
I feel like there's so many people that if they fell, they just fall on top of people.
Somebody could get hurt. Yeah, so that's not really a good one. How do you use techniques of neutralization to protect your self-concept? Anybody? You were talking to someone, you're different from that person. Okay. And they might have preconceived notions about you. And in order for you to kind of diffuse that, you would maybe be friendlier, maybe ask for directions if you were out and about. You'd just be friendlier so they could see all the person, or, you know, strike up some sort of conversation or whatever. These are things that you have to think about when you're out and about, I find nowadays. I don't like it when I'm walking down the street, I'm in downtown Detroit, and I'm walking down the street, and some people are coming towards me. Again, white people are coming towards me, but then they go out of their way, they move over to the side. When I'm walking, I'm like, well, this is your sidewalk too, and we got enough room for all of us to walk up and down the street. But I just find that happens, not happening as much now because there are more white people downtown, and so they're interacting with other cultures and other races a lot more than before, because everybody comes downtown all the time to do stuff. So it doesn't happen as much, but it still does happen, you know. Or trying not to be feeling like they're being in your way, or if they have the kids with them, they'll say, well, just move out of her way. You weren't in the way from the beginning. So I don't know how to do that when we're just passing by each other. If I have a chance to talk to you, then I can say, you know, you're fine. And sometimes I do that, say that when I'm on the elevator with someone, and they'll like go to the back. And I'm like, well, this is your elevator space too, you know? And or they'll have push the kids back. I'm like, you know, you're fine. Just come on right here, you know? And then I might say something about the weather or something neutral. So that's what they are talking about. So that people don't, you know, aren't afraid. That's the whole idea of someone who's different than them. All right. So while most people resist labels of deviance, some embrace them. Okay. In what different ways does this photo illustrate the embracement of deviance? Okay. Okay, now we know that tattoos aren't really deviant anymore. They're kind of mainstream now. Okay. But the lumps in the head, the spikes out the nose, I don't think I want to do that. But some people like that. They like that shock value to be able to do that. This is normal to them.
But what do you do when he gets sick?
He has some, how did he get the lumps? He has some sort of implant. Okay. And I talked to you, maybe I didn't talk to you, maybe the other class, but the implant stuff, because it's based on silicone, okay? Even if the filler is saline, the outer is silicone. The silicone does not mix good with the body. It migrates, gets into your joints, things like that. When people have the breast implants or whatever, that's why a lot of people have them taken out, because that silicone moves around, you know. So that's what he did. He went and had some surgery, and the lumps are probably silicone, and probably maybe even not saline, because they used to have all silicone. And then they stopped doing that. They just, the implants, the inner of it has saline and the outer is silicone. But again, that migrates. And the body is rejecting it. So when you come up with lupus, any autoimmune disease, that's the body rejecting that material. Okay. But some people like to, would like to go a different way, you know. All right. So stereotypes can be positive or negative, and these help to form the perception and the reaction of authorities. What stereotypes come to mind when you look at this photo? Now, they could be a rap group, or they could be gang members, or they could be both, because nowadays the rap stars are, there's some debate on YouTube where some of the people who are older, who've been in the rap game a while, they see some of the younger people joining gangs and stuff like that, and they're like, why would you go through all that trouble to get famous and get wealth, and then you want to join a gang? Why would you do that? You know, but they do. So what do you think? Gang members? Or just teenagers having a good time? Hmm?
Like a music video.
Yeah, it could be, yeah, music video. But some of the people have on the blue bandanas, and one has red, which usually they don't mix together. The blue and the red don't mix. I do know that part. But yeah, they could be anybody. But sometimes people, their perception and their reaction towards people like these men can be negative when it doesn't need to be. All right. So, from a functionalist perspective, it talks about how deviance is functional for society, okay? Because it clarifies moral boundaries and affirm norms, okay? You can't go around being a serial killer. It encourages social unity. Okay, people get along better when they know they have limits. You know, if you have a child, if you don't have any limits for the child, it's going to be a mess. Like my little one that likes to lay on the floor. I told him the other day we got a long way to go and a short time to get there. So I'm going to have to work on you when I come over to make sure you're not doing the laying on the floor and the slamming the stuff off the. My granddaughter goes like, I'm tired of it. I'm like, well, you got to do something about it, or you're going to be at school every day. You're going to go through kindergarten to high school with him because you're going to be at the school every day. They're going to call you and tell you to come. And you don't want that. So we got to work on it. Encourage social unity, and it promotes social change. Okay. So mainstream values are things that we're not supposed to do can produce deviance, because some people just don't want to go by the rules. Okay, that's strain theory. Okay, and then social class again is related to crime or illegitimate opportunities. So if people are just like with Jay-Z says, the rapper Jay-Z says that he sold drugs for a while. His mother and his family lived in the projects in the Bronx, and there weren't a lot of opportunities for young people his age. They were struggling, scuffling, and so he decided to take that route of selling drugs to earn money for his family so his family could live better. You see it, he's watching other people in New York. You know, New York is a very expensive city to live in. Going to the city and seeing how people are living and whatever, and I want to live like that. So that was the choice that he made, okay? So a lot of people will turn to crime to improve their status in society. So again, mainstream values can produce deviance. Okay. Because a lot of people don't want to go by the rules. And then social class can be related to how people start to become involved in crime. Okay. They see these opportunities and they take them. Okay, I'm gonna take a break because it's after 10, and we're gonna meet back at 10:20. So again, under the functionalist perspective, you need to know about strain theory, and this is how mainstream values produce deviance. Okay, and we talked about that just a few minutes ago. And then illegitimate opportunity structures and how social class is related sometimes to crime, okay? And then there are differences. There's street crime, versus white collar crime. And usually, street crimes are punished more severely than white collar crimes. Okay. There is a man who is a sexual predator. I think he's been convicted before, but anyway, he is currently has a tether, or had a tether on him. Okay, but he's cut it off and he's run away when he really maybe should not have been given a tether, because he has these urges. No one's probably given him any sort of medicine or anything for the urges that he has to kind of dampen down those urges. And so he just took the tether off and he's gone. And they can't find him right now. So that's an example of something that would be considered a lesser crime. It wouldn't be considered a street crime, but not exactly a white collar crime either. But it's in the category that, well, maybe we'll give you a chance and we'll put a tether on you, when a person like this particular man should be in jail, where he can't indulge in his urges. Okay? So again, sometimes social class has an effect on how you get punished. Okay? So people who have more money are able to get better defense for themselves, or if they're in a if they're in a certain at a certain level in the social strata, they're not treated as harshly as someone who's maybe poor, can't afford to do all the things that they need to do. Okay. All right. So how people match their goals to their means. Okay. So do you feel the strain that leads to anomie, or the restlessness that we talked about? So mode of adaptation, conformity, cultural goals, accept, institutionalized means, so saying that you may have been committed a crime and you go to jail, you accept that, okay. Deviant paths, innovation, cultural goals are accepted. You should be innovative, okay. When you are coming up with things, ways to make money to get wealth, we accept that in our culture. That's part of our cultural being and part of our values, to have wealth. And to do that, you need to be innovative, come up with things that other people haven't thought of, so that you can present them to the public for sale. Okay. But if you're on a deviant path, like did I talk to you about the man who was going to go to jail because he sold a lot of tickets to this festival on an island, fire festival. I talked to you about that. Well, that's an innovative thing that he was doing, but he was a deviant because he's done other things to scam people out of money. Okay, so they accept that that's a cultural goal, but they reject that I might have to go to jail for it. Okay. Ritualism, they reject that because they don't want to follow the rules. Like the man that had the fire festival, had he linked with any number of the hotels on the island, he probably could have made a lot of money. Okay, but he would have to share some of that money with the people at the different hotels, and he probably didn't want to do that. Okay, so they reject that, something that you have to do, go by the rules again, ritualism, but they may or may not accept the institutionalized means to be able to do that. Okay. Retreatism, I'm going to skip that one. Rebellion, okay. Cultural goals is to reject or replace, okay. And the institutionalized means to do that, they may reject it or replace it with something of their own thinking, ways of being and ways of thinking. Okay. Even after the man who had went to jail, the FBI had gotten him on wire fraud and stuff, and he was out on bail, which he probably shouldn't have been, okay? He was trying to sell people tickets to the Super Bowl, $500 tickets to the Super Bowl. And he didn't have any means of having any tickets to the Super Bowl. So he was getting money from people, and then he would get them, say he would have the tickets for them, I guess, at the last minute, or maybe not at all. Because he had did that with the tickets for the play Hamilton. He sold all these tickets, $2,000 per ticket and whatever, but he was able to go out at the last minute and get the tickets for a higher price on, you know how they have them on StubHub and things like that? And that's where he got the tickets. And that worked. But other things that he did not work. Trying to sell people to events that he didn't have any right to sell people events to. Okay. So he comes up with his own way of doing, way of being, okay, in order to gain wealth. Okay. So white collar crime can be deadly, and yet some criminals go unpunished. Okay. So they talk about the faulty ignition switches in GM cars. Okay. They knew it was there, but they didn't fix it because it cost them too much. They didn't want to spend the money to fix the problem. Okay. They killed over 124 people. Okay. So this father's holding a picture of his daughter, and she was one of those 124 people that happened to. So a lot of times, you know, large corporations will make mistakes. They'll have things that happen. The Johnson & Johnson, that sell baby products and whatever, they've known for a long time that their talcum powder, the baby powder, causes cancer. Okay, and they didn't do anything about it. So now they're having these people who are getting massive amounts of money because they've gotten cancer from using the powder. I tried to tell my cousin, which I probably think they probably have looked into it already, but I can remember my uncle, from the day I remember him starting to use baby powder after he took a shower from the time he got out of the Army, like in '69. He would put on, every time he would take a shower, he'd put the baby powder on him all the time. And he died of, he had, I can't remember the cancer he had, but he died of cancer. And then when they started talking about it, but they were focusing on women having uterine cancer. But there are other kind of cancers too that people can get from using the baby powder. So I told called my cousin and emailed her and stuff, said you should look into it, because I can remember him taking a shower, putting on baby powder when he's getting dressed, putting on baby powder for decades. He was doing that. Okay, so I don't know if they've done it or not, because they don't live here in Michigan to look into it, but they should. You know, if they need any person to come and say this is what he did, there are plenty of people in the family that saw him with that on him. You know, so again, that's another instance of a company knowing that something is deadly or potentially deadly and not doing anything about it. You know. Okay. So how safe is your state in the violent crime in the U.S.? Okay. So the purple is the safest, and the aqua color is the most dangerous. Okay. And they include in violent crimes murder, rape, robbery, aggravated assault. Okay. I know the government keeps really good statistics on crime, whatever happens. I hadn't told you, but now that happened in '93, but my son was murdered in '93. He had went out. I have a brother that's like a couple of years older than him, and they were out with friends. They went to visit a girlfriend, and he was getting ready to leave. Apparently during that day he had some words with the guys that lived down the street from his girlfriend, and the guy was mad because he wanted to talk to the girl, but her father wouldn't let the guys down the street talk to any of his daughters at all. So he was angry, and he started a little argument with my son, and so they went on, and so my brother said, well, we should go. We should leave. So they did leave, because the deal was that he was supposed to come back home. By the time I got off work, we worked for the same employer, Children's Hospital, but he was off that day. He was supposed to come back home and be home by the time I got home. That was the deal, because we worked afternoon shift. And so he was on his way back home, but he decided that he didn't want to run from the trouble, and he went back, and my brother said, well, I'm going to go back too. I'm going to go with you. And so when they got back, they stayed for a little while, and then when they were getting ready to leave, as they were coming out, because they lived on a dead-end street, the girl and her family lived on a dead-end street, so it was only one way out, one way in. So when they were leaving out, the guy came out from the alley, because there was an alley just before you get to the street, and he shot up the van, and my son was killed in it. And so after that happened, I got a call from the government, and they asked me all these questions about what happened and whatever, because they use it for their statistics. Whenever there's a violent crime, they try to get whoever the family members are to answer questions and stuff. But they wait a while. They don't call you right away. It was some months after that they called me, maybe like about 6 months, and I got a call afterwards. Sorry about that. Yeah, but there's crime all the time. The good part of it was that he turned himself in, like after a couple of days. He did turn himself in. We did go to trial. He was convicted, and then he got 25 years, but he only had to do 21 of those, so he's out now. He's been out now. This will be the second year. He's out of jail. So, yes.
I'm very sorry for your loss.
Oh, thanks. But like I said, crime is, people say that places are safe, but there really aren't any safe places, to be honest with you. Crime can happen anywhere. But we had talked about him not arguing with, remember I said about the policemen? Just do what they say. The same goes when you're out and people want to start arguments with you, or they have some issue that you don't know about, is to not have any kind of confrontation with them, because you never know what they might do. And I used to talk with him about, I'm like, don't argue with people in the street. If they say you're a donkey, okay, you're a donkey. Just get out of the situation. And we talked about that the day that he left, that morning when he left home. That was the same conversation we had. Don't get into arguments with people on the street. And he did not listen to what I said. And I'm not saying that's the cause or he's the cause of it, but I always used to try to tell him, just don't argue with folks, because a lot of people don't mean you any good. They want to start some drama for whatever their reasons. Okay? So so women in crime, and there's been a change. You didn't used to hear about women doing things, but now women are doing a lot of stuff, and they're doing some big time for doing it. Okay? So you look at 1992 to 1994, and you see how the percentages have gone up. Burglary, car theft, drunken driving, stolen property, robbery, aggravated assault, arson, they've gone up. And before, women would do something and they wouldn't get a whole lot of time because they would take in consideration maybe you have kids, maybe it's the first offense or whatever, but now they don't do that anymore. You do the crime, you're going to do the time. Okay. Of those who, all of those arrested, what percentage are women? Again, there's a big change from 1992 to 2014. Okay. And before, it used to be, well, the woman was with the man, okay, and he influenced her to do the crime. But it ain't that way no more. The women are coming up with these crimes all on their own. They're doing them. Okay. So again, the government keeps really good stats on what's happening in each state and each city. And again, one of the reasons why they do is because when it comes time to give out funding for police, for law enforcement and things like that, they look at these stats. and they decide how to allocate the money, how much money to allocate to each state or city. All right, so from a conflict perspective, it's going to talk about class crime in the criminal justice system and the criminal justice system as an instrument of oppression. Okay? So, again, children, long ago, children used to work alongside adults. There was no distinction. You know, if an adult did 14 hours a day, a child was going to do 14 hours a day. Okay? The street criminals came from the marginal working class. So a lot of people came here from another country. They found it, you know, some were able to work and some were able not to find work. Okay? And a lot of times that's really how the mafia started. People came here from Europe, and a lot of people weren't able to find work. So this was another means of being able to support my family. Okay? So these boys worked in a glass factory in 1908. You know, and again, they would work long hours, maybe sometimes 6 days a week. Okay? But when you can't find the work, you either maybe go to another place where you can find work, or you might turn to crime, you know, as a way of being able to support yourself and your family. This is the explosion of numbers in U.S. prisons. Prisons are big, multi-billion-dollar businesses now. Okay, they make a lot of money. If you have a stock portfolio and you go through it, a lot of people get mutual funds and they don't really pay attention to what funds are in there, what stocks are in there. But I bet you if you went through it, you find out you've invested some of your money in a prison. Because again, they're on the stock exchange just like all the others. And people pay into them, okay? But they have to be able to keep going, make money for their shareholders. So, notice laws have changed over time, okay, to capture people. They have the 3 strikes law, where if you have been convicted 3 times, it could be the same offense or different offenses, then that last time, you're not getting out. You're not going to get out. You won't ever get out of prison, okay? Other ways of changing the law so that we can capture more people is to, in terms of the drug laws, make crack cocaine a more offense than powdered cocaine, okay? Then you capture certain segments of the population into the prisons if they're using or whatever. Even arresting people who use, not necessarily people who sell, but people who use, they go to prison, okay? Instead of getting treatment for their addiction. Okay? This is a way of capturing people. And the laws will change again to capture, if that's not enough to capture people into prisons, they'll just change the laws again, come up with new laws that will allow the system to capture prisoners. Okay? And that's how they keep going. Okay, the United States has the most prisoners of anybody in the world. Okay? Probably is going to exceed the 1.5 million prisoners that are in. By 2020, it'll probably exceed that. Okay? But of all the countries on earth, we have the most prisoners. Okay. So street crime in prisons, decline in violent crime, recidivism, and that's the number of times people return to prison. Okay, a lot of people get out of prison, and before 6 months are up, they're back. They do something, they go back. They do their time, they do something, they go back. Okay. And I have a family member, my younger brother, he's been in and out of jail almost his whole adult life because he has a substance abuse problem. Okay. And when the last time he was in jail, he was gone for like 3 years. And then while he was in jail, he said, I'm never going back. I'm tired. My kids are grown up without me, and I'm never going back. And since he got out in 2007, to this day, he has not gone back. He just made up in his mind that he wasn't going to do anything to put him back in that situation again. Okay? But a lot of people, they get out, they do something else, they go right back. And some people they have problems adjusting to life outside of prison, which is why they go back. Okay? They feel more comfortable in that situation, in that controlled situation. So they'll do something to go back. Okay? All right. So reactions to deviance, and this is a chart that compares prison inmates with the U.S. population, and then you see the age groups. Okay. Prison inmates, so look at 55 years and older, the percentages here. Percentage of the U.S. population 18 and over with these characteristics. Okay. These are off a little bit, but you can look at that at your leisure. And then by race and ethnicity, the highest population, African American. And I can say how people change the laws. There used to be, after slavery, after Reconstruction, the laws were changed, so they came up with vagrancy laws, okay, where we can capture people to put in prison to do labor, free labor, another form of slavery, by, okay, if you don't have your ID, you go to jail. You can't bail yourself out of jail. Maybe it costs maybe $50 to bail yourself out of jail because you don't have your ID. We walk up to you, ask you, where's your ID? I don't have it. Okay, you got to go to jail. And there's laws that were on the books. Then if your bail is $50, well, I don't have $50. Okay, then you stay in prison until you work off the $50. And so then you're in a situation where you're made to go out and work on projects for the state, work projects for the state, whether it's road construction or whatever it is. And the prisons get a kickback from the state to be able to have prisoners do that. But the money doesn't go to the prisoners. They're just doing free labor, okay? So that went on for a long time. People got caught up in the system. Some died within the system. And that went for, it was not only blacks, it was whites also. If you didn't have the proper paperwork, you went to jail, okay? And if you couldn't bail yourself out, then you were just here until you can get yourself out, or your family. But if your family doesn't know you're in there, because you can't communicate with them, you know, you just end up staying, okay, in the system. So that's another example of how the laws can be changed to capture this free labor. All right. Then the comparing system, characteristics by sex. It's overwhelmingly male. Marital status, never married, that's the highest percentage, because a lot of people go in young and they stay there most of their life. They'll do a crime. And I'm not saying that people that do crime shouldn't be punished, okay? There are a lot of people, now you notice that there are a lot of people who are advocating for people to get out of jail. Sometimes they've not done anything and they've been wrongly convicted. Sometimes they were convicted of a crime. I can't remember this woman's last name. Her first name is Alice. I do remember that. And she went to jail for drug possession. Well, she was running a criminal enterprise, okay? And then Kim Kardashian found out about her case and even went as high as President Trump to get her out of prison. But again, she was running a criminal. She wasn't just having somebody come to the door and she gave them some drugs. She had this whole enterprise going. So I thought the sentence that she got fit the crime. But again, now with these advocacy groups and individuals, people are getting out. Like she just got out of jail about six months ago after Kim Kardashian went to the president to advocate for her to get out of jail, saying she had a harsh sentence. I don't think she had a harsh sentence. She was running a criminal enterprise. It was a big operation. She had connection to Colombian drug cartel. That's not a mom and pop operation, okay? So what the sentence they gave her fit the crime. But again, this is what's happening, you know. So people who do commit crimes, they should go to jail and complete their sentences. Okay. Although she had kids and they grew up without her, but that was the risk. You knew the risk when you did the crime. Am I right? You knew the risk when you did the crime, so you got to take your medicine, in my opinion. All right, so education, less in high school. Here it says people with high school graduate, the percentages are high. Some college graduate. A lot of people, when they go to prison, although it's starting to be less and less, the states will pay for you to go to college, get your high school diploma, get your college degree. Some people get advanced degrees while they're in prison. They're there a long time, you know. But not every state, and they're trying to cut it out so that people can't go get education. But I think if you're in there, that should be part of the process, some rehabilitation. That's part of the rehabilitation process, so that when you come out, you can be useful to yourself and to society. All right. So reactions to deviance. This is Sequoia, who's 11 Floyd, and Deontay. Okay, they're holding photos of their father, who's in prison for 25 years to life for theft. Okay, these part of that 3 strikes law that I was talking about. Okay. If you've done things, no matter what it is, 3 times, and you come before the court a 3rd time, then you're not getting out. You're just going to go away. Now, again, it's all relative. I think that if you're doing nonviolent crime, then you shouldn't go away for life. If you've done it 3 times, if you come before the court 3 times, you shouldn't go away for life. You should do some time and then be released. Okay. But again, people are getting caught up in this 3 strikes thing that they have in California, and it's been voted in other states. I'm not really sure about Michigan. I would have to do some research about that. But I do know it started in California after poly class. A young girl, 12-year-old girl, was raped and murdered by Richard Allen Davis. But he was a repeat offender, probably for the same type of crime. He just escalated to murder. He was on parole at the time, so that's when they came up with this law. Her father went to the legislature and got this law passed. So now if you 3 times, the 3rd time, you don't get out. You don't ever get out. But people are getting caught up in it who didn't do these violent crimes. They may have nonviolent crimes. Maybe they might have possession at the time before marijuana was legal. Maybe they went to jail for marijuana possession, and they did it 3 times. So that 3rd time you got to go away for life? That doesn't seem quite fair to me. Okay. But again, people will get caught. Something that's meant for these violent criminals, other people are getting caught up in that system also. All right. So how fast they return. This is recidivism. I think I'm saying that correctly. And it shows you the arrest, And then the same rate, they go back to prison. Again, a lot of people who have been in jail, they become institutionalized, okay? So, because I remember I was sitting in the car with a friend of mine, he was a police officer, we were just sitting in the car and I was getting ready to go into my apartment. And we were talking, a man walked down the street. And he goes like, he's been in jail. I'm like, how do you know? Like his mannerism, the way he was walking or whatever, it's a certain way that people carry themselves if they've been locked up for a while, okay? And some people are just not comfortable, you know, in an environment where they have freedom to come and go as they please. They've been in jail a lot of times. They're just used to that environment where everything is controlled, okay? And so they may do things that will put them back in that situation because they're just not comfortable being out and having the freedom, okay? And then some people, they never, they get out and they never go back. I think maybe now it's been a few years ago, a friend of my brother, the one that's out of jail, he had a friend that he met in jail, and I saw him at the store. He remembered me, I didn't remember him. And he goes like, I got out, and I'm like, I'm never going back there. And he got a good job. He said, I'm getting ready to retire. He'd been out so long, he had worked, and now he's gonna retire from his job. He said, I just said I wasn't going back to that. And he just did. So there are people that get in there and they see that's not for me, and they decide I'm never going back. But there are a lot of people that go back, they're in and out, in and out, in and out for various reasons. Okay, so recidivism by type of crime. Okay, you have your car theft. That's the highest percentage. Okay. Burglary next, illegal weapons, fraud, illegal drugs, robbery, rape, drunk driving, and murder. Okay. And with murder, usually you get those long sentences, so there's not really any kind of point of you going in and out, in and out. You're just going to be in and you're going to stay in. Executions in the United States. Okay. Texas is the number one. They have the most, followed by Oklahoma and Virginia. We don't have the death penalty here, but people tend to get long sentences. 60 years, 100 years. They tend to get longer sentences, like the man that was the Uber driver and he murdered the people about a year ago. He just was sentenced. I think he got 80, if I'm not mistaken, 80 years, something like that. So they tend to get longer sentences. They don't get the death penalty. If the state doesn't have the death penalty. Okay. There's some states that have a death penalty, but they haven't murdered anyone or executed anyone. And the states with the death penalty, there are many more that have the death penalty. Texas is a big one. They do a lot of executions. Followed by Florida. That's where Ted Bundy was, the serial killer of the women. He was in Florida, and they did execute him. Also, I think Arlene Warmus, yes.
What is your opinion about the death penalty?
I really don't believe in it. I think that for murder, you just don't get out. You die in prison. That's my thing. You know, you get the death penalty, they execute you, it's over, and then, you know, God deals with the rest of that. But if you murder someone, I think you should never get out. I think that the young man that murdered my son, that should have been first-degree murder. But the jury was arguing during the deliberation stage, that you could hear them arguing in the back about it. And they came up with, instead of letting him go, or saying it's a mistrial, they just said second-degree murder, because they had that option. But I think it was first-degree murder because, again, he was there at the alley waiting till they came out, and he shot Van up. Now, he says he didn't mean to kill anybody. But if you have an assault weapon and you are shooting at you mean to do something to somebody. Okay, maybe to everybody in the van, he just didn't get everybody. So I thought that should have been first-degree murder, but the jury said second. So then he has a chance of parole, which, again, now he's paroled. But I don't believe in the death penalty. I think that's the punishment. You just stay in jail and you die in jail. You know, that's my opinion. But no, I don't believe in the death penalty. But if we had it, I will say this, to be perfectly honest with you, if Michigan had the death penalty and that was on the table for him, I wouldn't be advocating for them not to use it. I wouldn't have done that. Even though I say I don't believe in it, but if in that case, I wouldn't have been saying, well, no, you shouldn't do that, because some families do. They don't want the death penalty for the perpetrator, you know. But I wouldn't have done that. No, I would have just kept quiet and let the jury do what they do. You know, I was on I had a jury duty for a murder case a couple of years ago. I was praying it wouldn't be a murder case, but it was. It was a woman who had murdered her boyfriend, and she did do it. She was living with him, and everything was going fine until she moved her adult children in with them. Now, the adult children had the option of living across the street because they were living in a house across the street, but for whatever reasons, they lost the right to live there, and they got evicted. So they moved in with him and her, and there were just nothing but problems because she had, again, young adults. They're like in their 20s, you know, we like to come and go, do what we want to do, and there was nothing but problems. So finally he had enough, and when they went over to her mother's house, they were at her mother's house, and while they were there, he said, I've had enough. I want you to get your stuff, and your kids get your stuff, and get out. And he left, went home. She followed him home, and she killed him in the doorway of the house, stabbed him, and he was laying in the doorway. And then one of the daughters came over there and stepped over him, and she said she didn't see him, but she stepped over him. Other testimony came out that she had been in the house and saw that he was laying in the doorway. She didn't do anything about it. So we ended up saying that she did it. And so I don't know what her sentence was, because I wasn't privy to that information. But that was what happened, but she did do it.
Was
When-
she his daughter? The girl that stepped
The
on-
girl that stepped over, that was the woman's daughter.
Okay, she saw him.
Yep, so a family member saw him there and didn't do anything, but she stabbed him in the chest because she'd always carry a knife on her, and that was testimony that was given by other people. She'd always carry a knife on her. She had a temper. He wasn't abusive to her or anything like that, but he just had enough of all the drama, and he just asked her to move, and then that was the result, the argument and then the murder. So yeah, but I'm not sure what she got. I'm sure I could look up Otis. There's a database. You can put the prisoner's name in, and they'll tell you where they are and how much time they got. You know, so that's what happened there. But I didn't really like to do it, but it came down to, I was the last juror, because everybody else had an excuse why they couldn't serve on the jury. Oh, it's a mother, and I can't be sending the mother to prison. They had all kind of excuses. My dog died, and I can't do this. And so when they got to me, they said, can you serve? Is there any reason why you can't serve? And I'm like, truthfully, no, I can serve. And I ended up being on the jury. But it was a short trial. It was just 3 days. Yep, it was just 3 days. Had she had more money, probably it would have dragged out longer. She would have got a better defense. They would do investigations. They would probably try to come up with something on the boyfriend, and he probably was a serial killer in the past life or something like that to get her off. But she had a public defender, and not saying that they don't do their jobs, they do. But again, more money hires a better defense. You can get investigators who do all sorts of things, you know, and she didn't have that. But she did do it. which is why O.J. Simpson got off. He had the money, he had the investigators, all of that, and he was able to put on a better defense. But he did do it. Okay. All righty. So who gets executed? Gender bias and capital punishment. The vast majority are men who are executed. Women do the same sort of crimes, although they do, like I said, Arlene Warmist, who was Charlize Theron, she did a movie called Monster, and that was based on the woman named Arlene Warmist, and she was going around in Florida killing men. She was a serial killer, and the state of Florida executed her. So they do, so women are, but just not at the rate that men are executed. So reaction to deviance. Some people think that people who are homeless are deviant. There's something wrong with them, okay? And that something should be done. There are a lot of people who are homeless. They have mental illness. There's a man that I see when I pass by the Macomb Mall on the way home, and he looks like he's living in the bus shelter, you know, but he's obviously has some sort of mental problem, and he's out there all the time because I see him where whatever the weather is, he's there, okay? But he may not want to. A lot of people, they have a mental illness, they don't want to go in the shelter because they don't want to be abused or whatever it is, so they stay out in the open. But a lot of people think that because you have mental illness, because you're homeless, then there's, you know, it's not right. It's some sort of deviant behavior when it's not. It's just that I have a problem, I'm not taking any medicine for it. And if I took medicine for it, then maybe I would be able to get myself a place where I could be, you know. But people don't think in that way. Or people have a drug or alcohol. There was a man on YouTube. He was saying that he has an advanced degree. He was a counselor, and then his wife died. He was a veteran also. He was a veteran. His wife died, and that started his downward slide to mental illness and being homeless, sleeping on the street. He says, I don't want to sleep on the street. I want to get myself up, but I just need to be able to take care of this problem that I have in terms of being mentally ill. And his was, again, brought on by the wife dying. Okay? So people have all sorts of reasons for being out there. Doesn't mean that they're deviant. You know, they're not out committing crimes. It's just the situation that they're in. Okay? So you see people like this all the time. You know, they want you to help, and you try to help. The only time I've gotten angry with the person, they weren't really homeless. They had went to the Nike store. There was a big Nike store in downtown Detroit. They went to the Nike store and bought everything they wanted to buy, and then they were out asking people for bus fare to get home. I'm like, okay, what's wrong with this picture? That was the only time, but they weren't homeless. They were just shopping and ran out of money. But there are a lot of people downtown that are homeless. Not as many as there used to be, but they are. And you have money, you just hand them some money, you know. Or I didn't have any change on me, but I did have coupons. I had Subway coupons, because I clip coupons a lot. I had Subway coupons, Burger King coupons. I said, I can give you a coupon, and if you give somebody to give you some money, then you get a meal. And a lot of people, one man, he was outside, and I don't know how he heard me, but he came inside the store. He goes like, you got another coupon? And I gave him a Subway coupon. So for like $5.99, you can get a foot long. Had some of those, and I had some, you buy a half a sub and a pop, you get one free, or you get a pop with the sub, something like that. And so they were able, so that's what I do. If I have cash, I'll give cash. But if I have coupons, I'm like, if you can get somebody to give you some money, then you can get a meal, if that's what you want to use it for. You know, some people are out there, they want money to do the things that they want to do. some people genuinely want to be able to feed themselves or get somewhere. So, but you never know. But you do it anyway. You know, you just give anyway. Okay, and that's the end of the chapter. I finished the whole chapter. So now I don't feel so bad about next week when you all won't be here. So does anybody have any questions about the upcoming exam? If you have any issues, try to do the exam in Google Chrome, okay? If that doesn't, if it's acting funny, try Internet Explorer, but usually it's the other way around. If you use Internet Explorer, it won't let you access the exam, but if you switch over to Google Chrome, it will. If you have any issues, tech issues, just make sure you have the number for the tech people. It's on the website, and just call them and they'll be able to answer any questions. But again, it'll be all set up. All you have to do is access it, click on it. It'll take you right to the exam, and you'll see all the questions at once, okay? So, and then also, I'll be available next week. So you can email me, and I'll try to stay on frequently, so if you have any questions, you can just email me, okay? All right, then, have a good 2 weeks. I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Good luck with today's lesson.